You ready? Great. Thanks everybody for joining us at the April meeting of the Rochester Land Bank Corporation. I'm also calling this the first spring meeting of Rochester. Officially spring because I got my first sunburn. Thank you. Well, it's a congratulations to all of us. Well, that is a harbinger that winter is officially in fact. Yes, I did get it here. I was not in Florida.
I was gonna say,
No,
here?
here.
Yes.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous out there for a guy like me.
Not all of them. They're not all-
Oh, him?
We have
Yeah.
them, you know,
That's right. That's right.
people's eyes.
Walk a mile. So the first thing we have to do today is elect a secretary pro tem for the meeting. And if I remember the last time we had to do this, we had a very eager volunteer who seems eager again.
Sure.
Look at that. So we have a candidate. Do we have a motion to approve?
So.
Councilman Creed as our. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. All right, then we can officially call the meeting to order, or I guess I could have done that already. First thing is to approve our meeting minutes from March 17th. I assume what you were doing before we started the meeting was quickly reviewing this to confirm that everything was good. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns on the meeting minutes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
Make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And we will not have a treasurer's report. But we can, okay, all right, we will have a treasurer's report as presented by.
I didn't write it, so he did it. I'm just gonna, so disbursements. The independent title were for closing costs from the auction. We have now closed on all the properties that we purchased at the 2024 tax foreclosure auction. There are various RG&E bills on land bank property. Our rehab continues. 88 Rosemary is completed. Lime Street is continues to proceed. Yeah.
Speak up louder.
Oh, I'm sorry. Lime Street continues to proceed, and Fort Brooklyn is one of the properties where we'll be doing stabilization of the exterior. And then the interior will be performed once it's sold. And same situation with Wyoming. There's some security payments. 83 Ridgeway was an acquisition from the 2023 tax foreclosure auction. And there was a provision, an agreement as part of the credit bid that the purchase price would be paid once the property was transferred. It was transferred at the end of 2024 calendar year. And so this is the payment for that, that property as was sold. There's a water bill there. There's some continuing education costs, and North Coast is our property management services. And the actual treasury reports. Those disbursements. Yeah, okay. As other projects, and the revenue that came in. There was a refund from one of the properties that did not close. And oh, probably some LBI grants draws. So the LBI grant will close as of June 1st, you're on track to spend all the money. There are some units that I can put in those.
Any comments or questions that for Ryan, or that we can pass on? Going on? All right, hearing none, we move on to resolution number 6, which is the approval of the 25-26 budget.
So, right.
Yes. Yeah.
So, the annual budget is due, April 30th of every year because it's based on a fiscal year. And so each year, this is the structure that is funded by the board office. And you'll see there are 6 columns here, and once you get past, I would say the third, maybe the fourth, it's all fine as that. But we had some rationale for the others. So the first column is actuals. It is from our financial statements fiscal year 23-24. And so I'm not really gonna go over it. Because
Before.
yes. And it was posted on the website. The current year is based on actuals this year and what we foresee happening in the remainder of the year. So the first, we go over the revenue first at the top. Our operating revenue is essentially sale of properties. That is what we do, we transfer. So those, that is the sales revenue plus the anticipated sales revenues from 4 Brooklyn Street, which the board approved the sale at $27,300. So that is your tacked on to the actual sales revenue from this year. It is conceivable that another property might sell before the end of, not really likely that it would close, given that we're going to sell to our occupants who have mortgage commitments that they'll need to get, so that does take a lot of time. The next category of revenue is the state subsidy that is from LDI 1, which is the operating funds, that's $150,000 per year. LDI 2, the remaining LDI 2s are $854,517 that were not spent in the previous fiscal year. That's all of it, which will be spent by June 1st, which is when our extension term ends. Federal subsidies, those are the ARPA funds that we've spent to date. That is a portion of the cost of the properties that we purchased at the tax foreclosure auction. The remaining cost of the properties was paid by LBI phase 2 funds. So those are the funds that have to date been drawn down from the ARPA award from the city. There are still many scheduled to go out the door, but again, the ARPA funds are much like the they're tied to the sale of a property as they are going in on the back end to subsidize the rehab after the owner-occupied properties, to be owner-occupied properties are sold. So they will be coming out after the sale. Municipal subsidies include the city's donation of staffing costs. So in the calculation for the past 2 years, that is included a portion of Paul, mine, Cindy's and Maritza's salaries in the fringe. It's 25% for Paul, 50% for Cindy and I, and 75% for Maritza. And then the reimbursement from the LBI operating funds is taken out of that. Because it's reimbursed to the city, so that reduces the actual amount. And then the remainder of that includes the city council rehabilitation subsidy that was reappropriated. Is that right? It was $420,000 to rehabilitate properties that were purchased or acquired by the city or the land bank at tax foreclosure auction for their use as unoccupied homes. And so those funds were reappropriated. Would be, part of the, we need to have an agreement in place with the city before we can start drawing them and. So that was for the end of fiscal year to approve the creation of that agreement last year. Then the other operating revenue is interest earnings. To date, there were just over 70,000 that has been earned this year on and as just interest on savings. So as the amount of funds that we have gets drawn down for use in projects, it continues to fall, and the last month was just over 10,000 in interest, and we anticipate something around there for the next 3 months through the end of this month. Which gives us a total revenue of $1,980,570. And then coming down to expenses, that is the salary contribution from the city based on those selling fringe, based on those percentages and totals for the foreign employees for the whole year. The next area your response is professional services contract. That includes the property management contracts. There's 25 in each contract for the work of the mountain. The pre-development agreement we have with Cornerstone for pre-development activities for the Rochester project. That is right around 140,000. And the structure of the contract for the strategic plan contract is not exactly that half up front and half at the end, so the portion that is that just paid at the beginning of the contract is included here at 25,000, which gets us to that 213. Other operating expenditures includes the acquisition cost. So that would be all the properties that we purchased at the tax foreclosure in 2024, as well as those that were sold. Well, were sold during this fiscal year. And I believe we don't anticipate any more sales from 2023. So that is a total of $242,159.50 for acquisition. And there is an estimated rehab expenditure of $1,047,381 for the properties currently under rehabilitation. And we have spent in $52,121 in environmental investigation, which is part of the pre-development activities that happened in the Josiah neighborhood. Those have primarily been expended through city contracts with various environmental consulting firms. And those are LBI phase 2 funds that have been used. Moving down to non-operating expenditures. This is comprised of $5,000 in closing costs. The land bank generally does not need to pay closing costs because there's there's some sort of agreement. But these are, well, deed recording costs. These are title investigation and title insurance costs for the properties that we intended to purchase at the tax foreclosure auction. So that is why that is higher than what it normally would be. We are paying utilities at the properties we currently have under rehabilitation. As we have them under rehabilitation, so there's that 3,000 for RG. 4,000 taxes, just the taxes for the properties we are in the inventory. We have spent $7,738 on water bills on the properties we have in inventory. $15,000 in insurance costs. It's that exact number because that is the amount that we are able to reimburse the city for their payment of our insurance costs through the operating grant. It's higher, particularly as we keep more properties in inventory and their value goes up as we do that. But we are able to reimburse to that amount. We pay $275 to file our chart 500. $10,000 for appraisals. We have two appraisal providers at the city, and the land bank has $5,000 in each contract, and we use those funds each year prior to the tax foreclosure auction. So that is, most of these are standard expenses that will continue until as long as we're in business. We have spent $2,000 on New York Land Bank Association dues. And $1,000 in travel. We're anticipating we've not spent that, but there is the Land Bank Summit, the annual Land Bank Summit, which will happen in May prior to the end of the fiscal year. So we believe that would get us up to $1,000. And there's been just over $1,040 in continuing education and licensing costs for staff. It brings us to our efficiency of revenue of $61,113 for this fiscal year. We have currently more than $1 million in revenue that is not been expended. So there are many years where there is a deficiency in the spending that reflects the use of funds that should be used for the purpose of returning properties to public use. And so you'll see that here, and you don't want to be afraid.
Many years
Yes.
with that.
And there will still be, revenue coming in. And so yes, I think that the actual activity that the land bank is undertaking is very exciting. Actually, we're still being fiscally responsible as we spend down these funds for this. Okay, so I will go very carefully through the year you're actually voting on, the adopted budgets. So we're anticipating approximately, this is a conservative estimate, but approximately 200,000 in property sales. That is generally where we fall. I know that was much higher the previous year. But some of that revenue had to do with an insurance claim for a property that previous year. And so we tend to be right around 200 for each year. Obviously that may change, but we don't want to get over ambitious. With the state subsidy, we will be going over this later, but we did submit an application to New York State for the land bank initiative open round funding, which the deadline was March 31st. And we submitted an application for that 2 million, which was the most good request. But because we are conservative, we received 90% of our last request, so we approved for 90% of this request. So that includes 1.8 million of LBI open round funding. And then the same amount for LBI operating funding. Our LBI phase 1 operating funds continue through almost the end of September, But the next round of operating funding has not come out yet, so we don't know how it will be structured, so we just built in this in. Use of previous years. When it was based on expenditures. The federal subsidy includes the remaining harvest subsidy that was awarded to the land bank, which is the next year. And some funds from the city's hero grant, which is an EPA grant for to support some environmental sustainability measures on properties that would have at the land bank. So that would include solar installation, car charging stations, and an audit on. Oh, I guess it is. So, we would need to, the properties would need to remain.
Bless you.
The land bank inventory while that happens, and so there are fewer properties for which that were eligible. We will leave it wherever we will be using primarily on the doubles that will social security was probably. And then the municipal subsidy is again the salary, the portion of the salary for the 4 employees that were already receiving it, and also ISADA, her position is included here as well. Again, with that 50%. And then we've taken out the LBI, anticipated LBI operating subsidy that we would reimburse the city for. And then the non-operating revenue is interest income. I brought it significantly down because I expect that we will hopefully spending down and not be amassing as much interest as we report the trend. So that is a total revenue of $4,774,000. And then the expenditures, that is the salaries for those 5 positions that then that I just described. And then the professional services contract category, we have brought down the company manager contracts because we have not spent down the entire 50 within the contract term, which the first year ended on March 31st. We have an option agreement, we have to up the option agreement, but there's still many contracts, so we brought it down to 20,000, close to 25,000. Within property manager, you will hear if that's not enough. So 50,000 for as part of our request to the state for the next round of LBI capital funds for redevelopment and to state of redevelopment contract where we do the same type of activity, looking at areas to see if we might be able to situate a new construction project. And 24,000 for the remaining strategic planning consultant funds. And then supplies and materials, we just keep that in there because there has been a year we use it. It's really, we don't obviously buy supplies and materials, but generally it's part of the other non-operating expenditures. But it's done feel record. So we leave there. Other operating expenditures or operating, we consider the position we have. And we used to break out environmental, but now it's just acquisition. That's our operating expenses. We're anticipating we're anticipating $282,298 in acquisition. Because those are the funds that we have remaining from ARPA and the anticipated LDI open round funds. That is a slight increase from what we were able to spend at the tax foreclosure auction this year. We initially spent 410,000, but given the nature of the changing real estate market and the shift in the likelihood of people having attorneys to say that to take advantage of the new the changes at the federal level, the Supreme Court decision ensuring that properties do not be taken. We have lost many of the sales were canceled. So what we ended up spending was far less than that. So we'll continue to be aggressive and hope to expend this amount. As far as rehabilitation, we have requested 1.45 million stabilization funds from state. So stabilizations are the funds that we're using to rehabilitate the exterior of the property prior to selling. We currently have 7 properties in inventory. We are taking 5 more. Anticipate that given the cost increases, there is, we have allocated $100,000 for each single family property and $150,000 for each 2-family property. And that would not cover the total rehabilitation, but we'll just take it in a couple of years for the property that will be selling. On the back end to have that. The occupants, whether from the ARPA funds or the council funds. We have $100,000 in additional pre-development costs, environmental, potential site investigation, or that is probably known that we should suitable for an additional application for a new construction. We have $349,193 currently allocated for we have from the new ARPA fund. There is $250,000 of the council funds we anticipate will be able to spend during the next fiscal year. $50,000 again, that's the rehabilitation, which comes on the back end, anticipating that for 2 properties. Those funds are available to spend for release. So, we're just saying that much next year. There is 1.9 million other funds which are related to the Rochester Bridge project, which is our and 500,000 that the board allow us to allocate for discretionary land bank funds that we need to. And then the final category of operating expenditures, the same categories as I mentioned for the current year. Closing costs, we brought it down a touch. More. We can actually acquire more of the properties that we have spent the certification costs on. So that is $4,500. Got $5,000 for utilities, as well. We'll have more properties under construction during this year. We have $2,500 in water bills. I believe because we had some higher water bills. Things you had other properties that were occupied while not. So we do want to just right back to I would take $750 for continuing education and licensing, and our licensed members are, I think we put those in 1 year and we got the 2-year licenses, so. Or $250 for insurance premium. We have to run for that insurance to cover the state's grant award. So that has been $236 for 3 years. We anticipate if we get another award, we'll have to do it again. So $50 we've not put in the $15,000 for reimbursement to the city. Because we just were not sure what level of funds will be available to the elsewhere. There's $3,000 for travel because there was. I don't think it's reclaiming vacant properties. I believe it is a land bank, National Land Bank Network conference this year, and I believe it is in Detroit. So that will be some travel. $3,000 for taxes, $75 for the traffic hundred, and $10,000 for the appraisals. And that brings us to our total deficiency of $598,130. And then the next year, 2027, we're again just continuing the engineering that we have in terms of categories of costs. We look at the sale proceeds. We are anticipating higher sale prices for the properties that we bring all the way to that we rehabilitate all the way to completion, and then we sell the doubles that we are selling to different qualifying purchasers for investment to be landlords. And so we're anticipating a higher sales price for those properties. If you look at in state subsidy, we are anticipating again $150,000 in LGAP operating fund, and then $500,000 LBI capital funds to be anticipated award. We expect that we would have spent the actual requested award in previous year. So this, we're still using the offering the funds in the same flexible manner. We've put in $500,000. And then again, the city subsidy is salaries less the LBF operating. University for salary. And then the 50,000 is again interest on expenses. And to go down to expenses for a total of 1,251,037. When you go down to expenses, it's the salary costs 5%. Salary. And then we have included 75,000 for a property manager professional services line. As we anticipate having those properties that are doubles in our inventory to sell them to the right candidate that takes additional support. There's our supplies and materials. Then our operating funds, we have potential 200,000 for acquisitions from the land bank initiative, and 300,000 for rehabilitation from LBI capital. Okay. We expect to spend maybe 170,000 of the city council. We have funds during that following, then 200,000 land and discretionary funds to support both the rehabilitation and grow. We have grow as that comes. Again, the same categories of the non-operating expenses. Kind of adjusted in the sense that we might spend more for closing costs. I'm not sure why. But bump it up. So that. Just a bump up of 500 for the funds, and then that brings to, 1,339,362 in expenses. Leaving an efficiency of 87,525. I could go through these other two numbers, but I don't think it would be profitable. Let me know if you would like to throw them.
I suppose they're just projections, once we get on, it's probably good. Just kind of going into a best guess done for this.
Well, a lot goes into putting this together. I can just ask you to go back through it again.
Okay. More slowly. Monotone.
I have a question.
Yes.
Did you say that the solar and the EV, those are going to two families or double? And why is that? Just curious.
So there are three entities that are getting them, Home Rochester, Habitat, and us. The way that it was structured, the subrecipient has to own the property until the rehabilitation is complete. Whereas the way that we have structured our owner occupancy program, we are not owning the property until it's complete. There's the purchase price and subsidy, so we can't put it into the properties that we don't, well, not with these funds. The properties that we will not own until, that we will not be completing the rehab while we own them. That said, there was the idea that perhaps we could go back to the EPA and, explain the situation and see, but they were hesitant to go back to the EPA for anything at this point. But once the program is underway, and that's when they're able to get funds out, they said, potentially we could go back and see if they can find a structure.
Question, are we required to approve balance budget? I'm assuming not.
Totally a newbie at the table asking, but why is there such a big shortfall from 26 to 2027? Is like the 4.7 million in 26 because of ARPA? And then it's going back and kind of re-regulating it, like.
Yes, so
Okay.
the ARPA funds were all delivered to the land bank
Right,
in 1 year, and they all are drawn down
Okay.
from, they're no longer liabilities. They become then part of the actual venture for that year, and so that's why they came in the previous year, they get spent the following.
okay, I see.
And there could be other grant opportunities.
Right.
That present themselves in a couple of years that we don't know right now.
Right.
So we think that number will go up, but we have to
Yeah. that
kind of be
makes sense.
conservative with it.
Thank you for re-explaining.
Please ask any questions.
Thank you, Ryan. And are there any other comments or questions on our 2026 budget? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the FY 25-26 annual budget? Have a motion, is there a second? We have a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Once again, we'll go on to discussion items. First up, site visit.
Yes, so we were not able to schedule it for the end of April. But they will now be coming June 3rd and 4th. Thank you for that information. About contract activity. Forget it, that was during budget hearing. So, they will be here on June 3rd and 4th, and we will, be giving more information about their agenda. They will, certainly want to move forward, but there are other, stakeholders that they'll want to meet with, and it's just organizing a tour for them as well. from land bank projects and. They have also created a board survey that I'll be sending out after this meeting, that there was, you all will have a chance to respond to prior to their visits. Provide some information based on what. So, yes. We don't have programming set yet, but we will let you know as it. If we, after it's, research.
We are excited for them to come.
They see very clearly and they cut very clean. I am a doubter. Okay. Oh, our open round application, so we were able to spend enough of the previous award that we put in an application for open round funding. That application closed March 31st. They anticipate having another one in a few months. They did get a great deal of funding from the state again, so there's not this interpretation. We would expect to both have operating fund and capital fund that will two land banks essentially. These funds are this open round funding is capital funding. It's not from each municipality, and so it's somewhat more structured in terms of how it should be used for all the ways that we've been using it. We can continue to use it. So we requested the full 2 million that was the maximum request, and we broke that down into 200,000 for pre-development costs, which we are anticipating spending all of it on investigating some parcels of land that could be a potential block by block project. These parcels are in the northeast. This shows what I know. I'm not realistic, but it's supposedly it's the Upper Falls neighborhood, so it's right by Upper Falls, near Upper Falls and. St. Paul. St. Paul.
Oh, that's the St. Paul
Yeah.
corridor.
So it's, there's vacant land on a block that is owned by the city, where we could potentially, get 10 units. Maybe, I'm sorry, 8 units. It's not all contiguous, there's, 2 contiguous plots on each side and then 1, on the side street. And we're anticipating, we are looking at ownership opportunities, but duplexes, which that's part of what's happening. So we anticipate spending funds on those investigating the property. And then there's 350,000 for property acquisition as part of our request. And then that is the 1.4 million, 45, 1 million, 400. Stabilization we do have, so that is 900,000 for stabilization for properties that are such a market and properties that are double to 2 companies or 2 that are under rehabilitation that are not part of this act, but the 2 that have not been started that are part of this. Generating. I'm gonna call it grow. Income qualified. First. That's it. So. That added up to our last award. That's we received 9% of what I have. That's why.
Great.
Crystal at the state mentioned that she received more applications in the last week and on the very last day, than she received all of the rest of the time that has been out since like March of 2024. And so I don't know how to do it, but it's it.
When did they say there's more applications that it's on, and do we have a sense of when you would hear something?
Cheating.
Say,
They do have more, so my thought is, she said we will have another round within a month or two, and they'll have to award this one before they can put out another.
Oh,
So it will be sometime, I hope, before summer.
before some.
And finally, the one day summit, which is, they're saying it's a one day, but it's not. It is not in conjunction with another entity, another organization, which it normally is, but it is the afternoon before and the next day. It's the day of our next, our main meeting, so I will not be here. I'm very sorry after we could hear this. But it's
We'll reschedule.
fun, but why? So it's Monday and Tuesday, I think it's 20 and 21st. It's again in Oswego because they do a good party there. And it's just, it's really focused on state agencies, it would seem. So HCR will be there, they're bringing MBE, or they bring some NYSERDA, that sort of thing. So I'm going, anyone else?
I was gonna ask you, the entity, is it the same one that we did when we went to Lake George?
It's just land banks. We
Oh,
don't have anybody that we're doing it with. So we did, so the community, we did the NICOM community revitalization. We tagged onto theirs last year, but they only have their event every other year. So it's just gonna be
okay.
land banks this year.
When is it again, huh?
May 21st and 22nd.
Oh, yeah.
You can do it. I'm sorry, May 20th and 21st, not 21st, 22nd, 20th and 21st, Monday and Tuesday.
So nobody else is gonna join you at the summit?
I guess two questions.
Oh, yes.
So I guess for is the summit, do we have an idea of what's going to be on the agenda?
I think it's primarily, things to support new land banks, and then there'll be the presentation, personal HCR.
Good, yeah, okay. I guess the second question doesn't have anything to do with that, but just I hear about the ARPA funds from county.
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness, we got some money. So there was an award of $687,000 in ARPA funds from the county for the Roots program, which is not near what we asked, but it's far more than they're giving anybody else. So we are very excited, and we are anticipating, that, within the AHOP program, we will be able to construct around 17 properties. But those others may be part of like a second round, perhaps, block by block project. So we've done a good deal of environmental investigation with them, so that will support us in that. But yes, 687,000.
That's great.
Thank you.
What does, so what does that do as far as the? Yeah.
So that would be with the support of the city, that we are going to be, leading an effort to move forward. There wouldn't be a gap after that. That's why we brought it down by those three structures.
And we can still do the three.
Potentially
As
next-
a second phase, with more funding after it's come out, we're gonna do it basically.
Good news. When's the groundbreak?
May 20.
Probably it'll be snow, but.
Right. Okay, great. Anything else for the good of the board?
But here a very brief update on 1090 Culver Road.
Oh,
Cobblestone
of course.
house, beautiful cobblestone house that will soon be all of our vacation destinations. So we did have a engineering study done on that property. And it went about what we thought it was gonna be, but on the worst side than for sure. Extended period of vacancy, we all, is everybody familiar with that house? You all know. Been vacant for 10+ years. Labella went in there. The main structure is there's kind of two sections of the house. There's the main cobblestone part of the house. Then there's a 2-story brick addition off to the side of it. The 2-story brick addition is in very, very difficult condition. Unsafe for entry. And it starts at the roof. The roof is literally caving in on itself. So much so that the amount of water that has penetrated through the roof has gone in and deteriorated the second floor. So the floor ceiling assembly of the second floor, of the second floor, ceiling of the first floor is really, really compromised. They don't know if it would withstand any weight at all on it. So then, also not surprising, the first floor. That floor ceiling assembly also extremely weak. And if you go into the basement, you can see some of the evidence of that. The recommendation is if we were gonna proceed, you'd start from the basement and shore up the basement. Okay, because, oh yeah, that's right, before we get to the basement. All the temporary shoring, the jack posts, all those things in the basement, none of them have any stability any longer. A couple in the front corner of the main part of the house do, but most of them need to be replaced. They're a combination of wood and some metal. The metal's all rusted out, the wood is bad. A part of the basement walls of the cobblestone house, typical for that era it was built, about 3 feet of stacked stone with some field stone with water in between it. Some portion of that has crumbled into the house, so you have a little area of rubble. That would need to be shored up, and then the foundation underneath the 2-story would need to be greatly reinforced. Okay, once that's reinforced, then you can go up to the first floor. Okay, reinforce that upwards in line with what you reinforced in the basement, take that up to the second floor, do that, and then take the whole roof apart and reinstall. There's nothing, they don't feel there's anything worth saving or that is structurally sound as far as the roof structure goes. So we're completely rebuilding that roof, and then a lot of shoring up with that second story addition, 2-story addition. Then we would get back to the main house. The main house is not in terrible condition. Much foundation is a concern. And again, long period of vacancy, no conditioned air in the house. Most of the wiring that is behind the walls, they believe to be compromised and rusted. Same with any piping. So it's a big job. And that's not unexpected. We have kind of halted at this point because now we have a couple of companies who are going to be giving us estimated costs, probable costs here. So once we have that idea, then we'll have an idea of which way we want to go, which way the city administration wants to go. We'll discuss that, so we'll have a better path forward, hopefully within a month or so.
So is it possible, Paul, I understand it's a historic building. The addition is not cobblestone.
That is correct. Is brick.
If that was removed, it's just the cobblestones, the original cobblestone structure that was.
Yeah.
Is that something that's possible?
Yeah, they're gonna scope that as well. So when the addition was put on, it was tied into the existing roof. So that they have to figure out how they would detach it without hurting the existing roof, how they would patch it up, and then how they would close up the openings of what used to be exterior walls. To kind of, just to make it a complete envelope. So they're gonna look at all that. Again, they wouldn't necessarily need to remove all of the basement of the addition. They could leave a lot of that in place if they needed to. But that is going to be scoped. But those kind of demolitions are very, very expensive also. So you don't hurt the existing structure, but you're knocking down the compromised part of it, literally do it one, like a brick at a time. So they're gonna be looking at that as a possible path forward as well.
Like, would we be able to keep this?
That would be a problem. We would have to go back to the state. We'd have to go back to the state. Because there was quite a bit of involvement from the state regarding the use of the property and future use of the property. Because of its close proximity to the neighboring property, doesn't meet the distance requirements. So that could be. I don't want to say problematic, but it could cause.
It could present some code issues.
Yeah, code issues that we can't really resolve. So we're trying to figure out, and now to complicate things, this is my best part of it, as we head into the spring and warmer season, we are we need to send exterminators in. As you've all probably heard this before, there's every animal that lives in the city, that type lives in that house, including the aggressive population of wasps. So we need to get that sprayed so that people can approach the building and not be subject to stinging insects, those kind of things. So we got a couple things, we got a lot of kind of things in motion, trying to get there, but this is a challenge, and we knew it was one.
Paul, in relation to the main house, what's the square footage of the addition?
I don't know that. We could probably find it.
What is the square footage of the total square footage?
It was about 60, was it 65?
I think it's like
You take off part of-
57.
Was it 57?
You take off part, there would still be a substantial building to.
5125.
5120.
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly do something with it, if we took that addition off. Yeah, for sure, but again, it represents a code issue that I'm not sure how we would resolve. We'll investigate that if and when we get. We're waiting at, there's 2 or 3 companies that the city contracts with that they feel that are DES folks, and city's DES folks feel have the skill to do this. Those companies are also involved heavily in school renovation projects. So they're gonna bid on those, because you only have 2 months to work on the school, so they're bidding on those, so we're hoping to get contract estimates back within 3 to 4 weeks. They sent it out about a week and a half. We just figured 4 to 5 weeks. So we're already in the process now.
Thanks for ending the meeting on a high note.
Yeah.
We look forward to getting a chance to get in there as well. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye, we're a stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
So you got any